plan for the next 120 days. Now, see, at this juncture, let me clarify, right? The closest analogy that I have is that of a farmer. So, a farmer prepares the land, sows the seed, puts in the effort, and then, now at this juncture, let me tell you, VARC is a slightly tricky area for people. So, once again, I want this journey to be customized for you. You need to read something which is a little challenging for you. Hello there and welcome to MBA Wallah. So you are here because you are preparing for the CAT exam and now you want a plan for the next 120 days. Now see, at this juncture, let me clarify, right now you actually have a little less than 120 days and don't worry, I have you covered. I am going to give you the plan for the number of days that you are left with. So we are going to cover the next 16 weeks, which is approximately 120 days. Sounds nice. So we'd go ahead and work with that. My name is Vikrant and I am going to tell you what can lead to a score of 99 percentile and maybe even more when it comes to the exams. Right? So if you happen to have any other question, any confusion, anything that you need to know, make sure that you drop it down in the chat below or reach out to me through Telegram and we would absolutely love to help you. So let's go ahead and let's start working. Now, I personally think that when it comes to the preparation, the closest analogy that I have is that of a farmer. So a farmer prepares the land, sows the seed, puts in the effort, and then you watch that particular plant grow. Your preparation is absolutely identical and I am going to divide it into 4 distinct phases. Whenever you start, these are the 4 stages that you need to really go ahead and get through. So phase 1 is to lay down a strong foundation, because without a foundation, we cannot have amazingly high percentiles. You can clear the sectional cutoffs. You can meet the eligibility, but if you want to get competitive advantage through that particular section, a strong foundation is absolutely imperative. But then foundation is just the first step. After that, you need to go ahead and finish the syllabus. Once you've finished the syllabus, you need to see or you need to identify where the lacunae exist, and that is what I mean by the mirror. You know, you've prepared. You've gone through the syllabus, you've worked on the foundation. Now let's stand in front of the mirror and figure out where things are still going wrong. So in this particular case, the mirror is the mocks, and writing the mocks is not going to magically improve your scores. You need to sit down, analyze those mocks, and that analysis will point you towards the effective corrective action that can help you move towards your target percentile. So anybody who goes through these 4 stages is bound to make it. Now at this juncture, let me tell you, VARC is a slightly tricky area for people. Tricky in the sense that a lot of it is skill based, which means that you need to put in structured practice over a longish period of time in order to see a real difference. And therefore, when it comes to VARC, if you end up cutting it too close, it can at times become a bit of an issue. So the plan that I'm sharing with you, this plan assumes something very reasonable, and that is that you are somebody who goes through the VARC section of the CAT exam. For the last 5 years, the paper has given us 24 questions. Out of these 24, a score of 38 to 44 is what typically helps you reach 99 percentile. So I am essentially assuming that at this juncture, you are able to get somewhere around 6 to 8 questions consistently right. Right? So basically roughly around, I'd say 25 to 35% of it right at this juncture. In case you are not here, you are able to get less than 6 questions right, then the plan will still work for you, but you need to work harder. You need to devote more hours. So moving forward, right from this juncture, if you can take out around 2 hours every day for VARC, I think we can definitely make a significant difference. Once again, if your performance is below this, you need to go ahead and increase that further. If you're already ahead of the curve, you're already at a juncture where you're able to get 11, 12 questions right, then you would move more towards testing and then focus on that effective corrective action more. So please make sure that you go ahead and keep bringing those adjustments. And I am going to give you a plan of a fortnight. Okay, so we'd go ahead and talk about 2 weeks together. So somebody who's starting today, for instance, I'm in fact starting my fast track batch tomorrow. So if you are somebody who's starting today with our fast track batch, this is what I typically expect you to do over the course of next couple of weeks. Number one, reading. Dude, you need to read. Remember, reading fundamentally is a skill. There are certain nuances to it, certain aspects to it that we cover in our classes, but it is fundamentally a skill. And if you're not working on that skill, chances are that you may have a hard time when you go ahead and attempt the exams. So make sure that you read every day for at least 25 minutes. If your accuracy rate is rather low, if you're not even able to attempt 6 questions yet, I want you to increase this number further. Maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, as much time as you possibly can devote. Now, you will have questions like what to read. So once again, I want this journey to be customized for you. You need to read something which is a little challenging for you, which means that you read something where you understand 70-80% of it. In case you pick up a text that you understand completely, it is not going to help develop you as a reader. So that's not suitable. On the other hand, if you pick up something that you do not understand at all, once again, you will not be able to maintain that, and therefore you would not really grow. So make sure that you stay in that sweet spot of difficulty level. You understand around 70-80% of it. And then the next question that you may have is, from where should I read? There are quite a few sources and resources that we have talked about on this channel. Go ahead, explore some of our other videos, RC genres, etc., and what to read, and you'd get a detailed answer. But please make sure that you go ahead and read for at least 25 minutes a day. Our long-term goal is to become absolutely comfortable with the kind of non-fiction that our passages are made up of. Then next, 10 RC passages every week. So for week 1 and week 2, 10 RC passages. If you're at an advanced level already, if you're making very few mistakes in RCs, you need to increase this number straight away. On the other hand, if you are there at that level, 6 to 8 questions, stick to 10 RC passages a week. So you will go ahead, read, and then attempt one passage for 6 days of the week. There should be this one day, the 7th day, where you sit down and attempt 4 passages in one go. So you'll not break it. It's not that you go through, 2 passages 4 days a week and then 1 passage 2 days. Nah, there should be one day when you sit down and go through 4 passages in a single seating. And then within verbal ability, I want you to go ahead and work on the best summary of the paragraph questions. So in the CAT exam, out of those 24 questions that we have, 16 belong to reading comprehension, and the other 8 are classified as verbal ability. They are typically spread across 4 different question types. There have been years when we've had 3 different question types, but for the last decade, this is one question that has been a constant in the CAT exam. It has always been there. On top of that, it also helps you become better at RC by bringing in something fundamental. So start here and keep at it until your accuracy rate goes beyond 70%. So it may happen in 3 days, it may happen in 15 days, I don't know, but make sure that you go through at least 30 questions. If after 30 questions you feel that, okay, now you've reached this level, great. If you still feel that, oh, no, I'm not there yet, just go ahead, attempt 50 questions, attempt 100 questions, whatever it takes to reach this number and beyond, because it is a precursor for RCs as well, so we are prioritizing it. Now, apart from this, there are 2 more things that I want you to do. I want you to work on vocabulary for 15 to 30 minutes every day. We already have a vocabulary strategy session available on our channel. You can explore that, go through that, and learn about all the hows. What do I need to learn? From where should I learn? What kind of tools and resources are good and recommended? We have you covered. So you can start there, and apart from that, you need to work on grammar. Now, when it comes to these last two, you may look at me quizzically and say, ah, Vikrant, I have seen these previous year questions. I've not seen a single vocabulary based question in the exam. I've not seen a single grammar based question being asked in the CAT over the last 10-15 years. Why are you putting me through this? So there are two reasons behind it. Reason number one, most of you are going to write not just the CAT exam but the other exams as well. And that is where these things come in really handy. In fact, one of those exams is called SNAP, and SNAP does not even ask you RC. In fact, almost all the questions that they ask you are based on grammar and vocabulary. For the last couple of years, they've not even given us something like a parajumble. So remember, if you don't work on these areas, how would you write SNAP? You get a lot of questions of this variety in NMAT, in CMAT, in Maharashtra CET. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is that when you look at English holistically, all of these areas are connected to each other. English is a ladder, English is a pyramid which is made up of these 5 blocks, and then you notice whatever is below is something that you need for whatever is above. So verbal reasoning is practically the foundation, and vocabulary and grammar are two knowledge-based areas that can come in very handy when it comes to comprehending, when it comes to attempting all those paragraph-based questions, and therefore ignore them at your own peril, particularly if you are somebody who is not very comfortable with English. Then it is absolutely necessary that you work on vocabulary and, for that matter, even on grammar. Once you start putting in those efforts, you'd realize how they contribute towards your comprehension and your verbal ability. Now, RC, fundamentally a skill. Skills improve through practice. That is why I wanted you to read for at least 25 minutes a day. And any question type that cannot be put in these 4 boxes exclusively is put in this box at the top, the miscellaneous category that we've conveniently labeled verbal ability. So you have something like parajumbles here, right? You have paragraph odd sentence out questions here. You have paragraph completion here. You have, for that matter, if I best summary questions that we talked about on a previous slide, if I include these other management entrance tests like XAT, SNAP, etc., fill in the blanks, verbal analogy, odd word out. These things are all a combination of multiple modules from down below. So grammar and vocabulary, because they are below RC, below VA, they are contributing factors to your success here, and therefore you would want to take out some time every day and work on those areas too. So that's about week 1 and week 2. Now let me take you over to week 3 and week 4. So week 3, you'd continue to read. You'll continue attempting 10 RC passages every week, but here you need to make an adjustment. Okay, so you've already spent 2 weeks working on passages. Look at your accuracy rate. If your accuracy rate is already hovering around 70%, maybe even further, you need to increase this number now. On the other hand, if your accuracy rate is still hovering around 50-60%, hold off on the passages a bit. I'd rather have you spend that extra time reading, extra time maybe engaging in some special kind of activities related to reading that will help you master some other question type of RC. So more on that later in the classes or in some other session here on YouTube, but make those adjustments, okay? Then the next thing that I want you to move over to is verbal reasoning. Remember that foundation. So when we talk about reading comprehension, it appears that it is designed to test comprehension. And that is true to a certain extent, but if you look at the last 5 years, you'd realize that around half of the section, at times even more, is actually testing our reasoning, but those reasoning based questions are disguised as reading comprehension questions. If you want to get great accuracy rate in those reasoning based questions, it makes sense to work on those things in isolation. So in week 3 and week 4, I want you to essentially focus on 3 question types of critical reasoning. identify the assumption, strengthen the argument and weaken the argument, and later on through this you would realize that when you master these areas, your accuracy rate in some question types of RCs will also go up. And then apart from that, continue with vocabulary, continue with grammar. So that's your week 3, week 4. Now moving over to week 5 and week 6, reading. But here I definitely want to increase your passages. So we'll move over from 10 passages to 15 passages every week. And alongside that, I want you to keep an eye on the pattern in your mistakes. So is there a particular question type that you frequently get wrong? Is there a particular subject matter, a genre from which when the passage gets asked, you struggle more? And start making a note of those things so that you can adjust your preparation accordingly. And after that, the next part is once again verbal reasoning, and this is the week where you move over to a very important question type. Important because this is a question type that gets asked the most often, and that is identify the inference. By now you've gone through a lot of passages, at least by this juncture, and you'd realize that, oh, this is a question that you absolutely need to master. And apart from that, you will also focus on the rest of the question types. So there are 3 more question types: identify the logical flaw, resolve the paradox, and then similar or parallel structure arguments. So all the concepts of critical reasoning should be over by week 6. And apart from that, we'll still continue working on vocabulary and grammar at the same pace, right? So that's week 5 and week 6. Week 7 and 8, reading, 15 RC passages. But now you will move towards verbal ability. Spend these couple of weeks mastering parajumbles. And here, if your schedule permits, I would want to ideally add writing. So write every day, write something. It can be a journal, it can be capturing your thoughts on a piece of paper, whatever. But write every day, even if it is for 5 minutes a day. That is going to help you a lot. Then if you're studying on your own, do spend some time on understanding the composition of a paragraph. You know, how paragraphs are created, how paragraphs are composed, and then combine that with the techniques that we share about solving parajumbles on YouTube and of course in our batch, and that can help you immensely. So you'd still continue working on vocabulary, and by now you would have been over with grammar. So 6 weeks is basically what, around 42 days, and a typical grammar book has 300 pages. You were reading it at the rate of 15 pages a day, which means that in 20 days you would have gone through that book once. So why did I persist until week 6? Because after that you will go ahead and read it once again. So it's roughly a 40-day task, where within these 40 days you would have gone through that particular grammar book twice. So after that, now that you've gone through it twice, you will move more towards testing, and you will move away from reading only the concept. You'd focus more on questions. But this is a juncture at which I'd say around 70% of your syllabus is over, and that is where I want you to go ahead and start writing the mock tests. So write a mock test which takes around 2 hours, and after that schedule 4 to 6 hours for analysis. The main thing in that analysis is to figure out what is not working, so that you can pick up some part of what is not working, focus on that, prepare along those lines, fix that, so that when you move over to the next mock, you are able to increase your performance, get more scores, get more questions right. We will have I can record a detailed session on analyzing a mock. You can go through the details there, but the core here is to figure out something that can help you fix your scores further. Okay, so that's week 7, week 8. Now moving over to week 9 and 10, you still reading, but now the reading also needs to become customized. So remember, I asked you to keep an eye on the subject matter that bothers you more when it comes to RCs. So maybe over these weeks you realized that, hey, whenever I see a passage based on philosophy, I struggle. Or when I see a passage based on, say, art, I struggle. Psychology, I struggle. So once you've identified those genres, those subject matters, now you want to customize your reading. You want to prioritize those areas so that you can turn even those areas into your strengths. And once again, around at least 25 minutes if need be, even more. 15 RC passages. VA, you've already gone through parajumbles over the course of last 2 weeks. So in week 9, I want you to focus on paragraph odd one out. Week 10, move over to paragraph completion. You should be comfortable within these 2 weeks with these two question types, considering that you already understood the nitty-gritties of a paragraph through parajumbles. So I'm hoping that 2 weeks are going to be enough. In case they're not enough, you can of course go ahead and maybe extend those for another week or two, but then I'll leave it up to you. Continue working on vocabulary if this is an area of concern for you. And once again, one mock test every week followed by a rigorous analysis. So by now you've written 4 mocks. Week 11 and 12, non-fiction, 15 RC passages. But this is where, these are the 2 weeks where you'd go ahead and revise verbal reasoning. So by now, when you focus on your errors in RCs, you may realize that maybe there is a particular question type of reasoning which you haven't mastered yet. Maybe assumptions bother you, maybe inference bothers you. So in that case, revise the concepts but focus specifically on those question types more. Increase the practice of those question types in isolation, in critical reasoning if needed, so that you can benefit from it. And then vocabulary is a constant fixture, but now we will increase the frequency of the mocks. So instead of 2 mocks across these 2 weeks, you would actually write 3 mocks. So approximately 1 mock every 5 days. Week 13 to 14, non-fiction, 15 RC passages. Now you go ahead and revise verbal ability. Remember, best summary, para jumbles, odd sentence out, para completion, and during that revision you want to focus on the approach. So there is an approach that we have shared with you in the classes. Do you follow that approach to the T, or have you deviated from it? If you have, the revision will help you realign yourself with the classes. And not only that, you can also now focus on those specific areas that you struggle more with. So maybe para jumbles, maybe focus more on that. Para completion is a problem, focus more on that during these 2 weeks. Solve some extra questions with some intensity. Vocabulary, and then same pace for your mocks. When week 15, this is the week, we are almost reaching the end zone now, right? So read non-fiction. And now I want to taper it off. So far we were going through 15 RC passages a week. A certain level of fatigue also sets in. You're also solving a lot of passages in the mocks. So let's cut down on the passages and bring it down to 10. In addition to the mocks now, I want you to squeeze in one section test of VARC in this particular week. Continue with vocabulary, and now this week I want you to write 2 mocks. So in a way, one VARC section test. The focus in this section test should be on fine-tuning your test taking strategy. You need to think of how best to spend those 40 minutes in order to maximize your scores. Experiment with those strategies and use this section test for that experimentation, and then implement it over these mocks and see whether the strategy works or it still requires more work from you, more tinkering, more fine tuning for you. And as usual, I'm not writing it here, but after every mock test, keep 4 to 6 hours for a deep analysis. Okay, so it's practically a full day job. And then we have week 16. Continue to read continue practicing passages, continue working on vocabulary. Now, should you write a mock? This is the week before the CAT exam. This right here is something that is optional. You feel like writing a mock? Go ahead, write a mock. You feel like not writing a mock, and that's still okay with me. If I were you, there are different people, right? So I believe that a week before the exam, our primary focus should be on uh, test taking strategy, locking that down, and we need to now switch over to soaking in the pressure. So when we reach the examination hall, we know that we are going to be under pressure. So we need to learn to deal with that pressure. We need to be in that frame of mind that sets us up for becoming a champion. Different people have different ways of dealing with that pressure. So there are people who would perhaps fancy writing mocks. Great. There are people who would probably spend that time visualizing, would spend that time now reducing the importance of the CAT exam in their mind. I'll tell you what it means. I've read interviews of a lot of Olympians, Olympic athletes, and the way they approach it. A lot of them use visualization. A lot of them use pep talks, what not. Now, one of the things which was recurring in their entire journey to the Olympics was every single event that they participated in the run up to the Olympics. Before that event, they used to remind themselves that this is the real deal. You don't need to relax, you need to go all out, treat it as if it were the actual event, right? But when they reached the actual event, they constantly reminded themselves that, see, it is just another event. I've gone through plenty of these in the past. So they downplay the importance of that. So that reminder, so whatever works for you. So primarily, I want you to work on soaking in that pressure. If the mock test does not interfere with that for you, go ahead, write it. If it does, skip it. As MS Dhoni says, what you do 7 days before the CAT exam is not going to dictate your performance. What you've done in the months leading up to the CAT will. So that is your 16-week plan, and finally you will have your D-Day. The notification is out, and we know that on 29th of November, the game is on. In fact, you can also start writing your mock tests according to your slot when the admit card comes out. So that will also help you get into that same state of mind which is in sync with your CAT exam. So that's the D-Day, and once you are done, what do? You relax? No, not at all. We already have week 17 mapped for you. Once the CAT is over, you will come back to this channel where we are going to share the analysis of the exam with you. We will tell you the ideal number of attempts, etc. If you happen to have any questions, you can ask those. And after a couple of days of this, we will pivot towards the other management entrance test sessions and their mocks. So right after the CAT, you'd notice that we'd start talking about SNAP for almost 7 to 10 days. After that, we'll pivot towards ZAT for another 2-3 weeks. Once that is taken care of, we will pivot towards CMAT and Maharashtra CET. And that journey will, of course, continue. So in week 17, you'll have it, and we'd also share the plan for the weeks ahead. But all of these other weeks are, of course, going to be about the OMATs. So that's how you can begin your preparation and ace the exam. Remember, it is about getting 13 to 15 questions right, and that's it. So if you are somebody who's at 80% accuracy, attempt 18 questions, get 16 of them right, and you are at 99 percentile, right? Is that doable for somebody who's starting today? Yes, provided you are willing to devote a lot of hours to your preparation. And in case you have been into reading in your life, well, that's a bonus. That can only make your life easy. So that's it from me for this particular session. Here's a quick reminder. Let perseverance sculpt your destiny. For the next 120 days or so, for the next 16 weeks or so, persevere. And please remember that this plan needs to be customized constantly, and even more importantly, you are not alone in this journey. We are with you wherever you are stuck, wherever you are confused, wherever you are uncertain. We are just a message away. And in case you are still thinking of starting your CAT prep and you wondering whether to join or not or what to join, we are starting a batch today, that is on 7th of August 2026. You can start that batch live, MBA fast track batch, and that can help you immensely. In case you think that not live, you want to study at an accelerated pace, you can join one of the batches that has already started for you. It is going to be MBA Ignite English, and that can help you too, right? So that's it from me. Take care, have a great day ahead, and have a fruitful journey. You and I can achieve a lot together. Have a good day.